Hey, what's going on? It's Lachelle, and I truly hope that you are doing well today. Today, I would like to share with you how the Lord blessed me and my children with a car, free of charge, a car to call ours, something of our own. And I'm sharing this with you to help encourage you wherever you may be at. Maybe you trust in the Lord for something specific and it does not seem like it's going to come through for you. But I pray that as you listen to my testimonial of God's faithfulness, that it encourages you in your faith. It encourages you where you're at. And I hope that you see that the same God that done it for me is the same God that'll very well do it for you. So me and my children was without a car for right at 2 years. Right at 2 years, we did not have a car. Now, originally, that wasn't always like that. Backing up 2 years, I did have a car. When me and my children had to rebuild our life, I did have a car. So maybe about a year and a half while we was in Texas, the car that I came from my previous state in, my original car, had broken down. And y'all, it was such a loss to me and my children, because here we are, we rebuilding our lives, happen to start over, start from scratch. And now we have something else seems like it's added to our plate, because here we are in a foreign state, in an unknown city where we're still getting accustomed to, where we're still learning our ins and out of where we living at. And now you telling me that we don't even have a car of our own. So it was a total loss for us. And due to the loss of the car, and it was a loss because the motor had locked up and I did not have the resources to get this car repaired. And not only didn't have the resources to get the car repaired, but I did inquire of a few mechanics that told me, hey, if we do the work on this car, you got to understand that the labor and the cost of fixing it is going to outvalue the actual cost of the car. So we're not trying to get over you. In all truthfulness, it'll be better for you just to call it a loss. And that's what I had to do. Here we was starting to rebuild our life, and you telling me it felt like a setback. And honestly, it was a setback. It was a delay, because from the loss of that car, I end up losing my job. I end up losing my job because the car was obviously my transportation to and from work. And then the job that I worked at that specific time was an overnight shift. I worked 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. So even if I did want to, catch the bus, the public bus line to the job, you had major things that was going against that. First of all, I worked in another city, 30 minutes outside from where I stayed. And then the bus line did not even go to that city. And taking the Uber wasn't not even a choice, because the price to pay for an Uber there to work and the price to pay for an Uber back from work was just like giving them my whole paycheck and just working for free, technically, if you did the math like that. So eventually, due to the loss of my car, I lost my job. And when I lost my job, I'm going to be honest, it felt like I was working backwards. At that particular time, at this particular time, I was really starting to get serious with God and really start dedicating and get my mind transformed, and all these things in the spirit was working for me. But then it seemed like life in the natural was working against me. So I was lost at words, because I didn't have the help. I didn't have the community. I didn't have no resources or anything. But I do thank God that he did sustain me and my children during that time of no job and no resources like that, because what I had saved and obviously what I had coming in through income tax in just a few months after my car broke down and after I lost my job is how me and my kids lived. We lived off that. and we wouldn't necessarily leave the house unless we had to go to the doctor's office. So we'll take the Uber if the kids had to go to the doctor's office. And then if we needed groceries, I signed up for a subscriptions to get our groceries delivered to us. And then the money that I received from my income tax, I saved up, and I end up paying my rent up for so many months to make sure that me and my children had somewhere to stay while I was still in search of a job, because I didn't have a car. So I had to try to find somewhere closer to where me and my children was living to be able to go back and forth from. Okay, so during this time that I didn't have a vehicle, God sustained me and my kids, y'all. Day in and day out, he kept us. This is the honest to God truth. We did not go hungry, not one time, but God kept us. So back on track to the car. I was without a car between the time that the car broke down. The first car that I originally came to Texas in broke down to I got another car was about an 8-month period. So 8 months I didn't have a car. And so my mama ex-husband, he stays in the same state. So he ended up finding out that me and the kids' car broke down. We didn't have a way. So God using him, and through his obedience, he ended up having another car that he was not using. So he said, hey, I got this extra car. It's not the best, but it'll get you and the kids from A to B. So I said, absolutely, I'll take it. I was not in no position to be picky, you know. He said, you know, it was some things that was wrong with the car, but again, it would get me through from point A to point B. And to be honest with y'all, that came right on time, because I had just got a job. I had just got hired for a job. So one day after I got hired for the job is when he mentioned the car. So everything was working in alignment. So at this time, I now had a job and a car. Again, he did acknowledge that the car wasn't the best. It had some issues working with it. But I prayed over the car and I said, Lord, I ask that you keep me and my children as we get in this car, as we go to and from the places that we need to go to and from, and that you just protect us. Now, again, this car that he gave us, and he actually gave me the car. He did not loan me the car. He did not want nothing for the car. He said, I just want to be a blessing to you and the children, because I see that you're trying. So I want to give you the car. So he gave us the car. So I'll forever be grateful for his heart posture with giving me and the children the car. And again, he did acknowledge that it was some mechanical issues with the car. So the car brakes was not the best at all. I mean, you had to literally slam on the brakes or try to come to a stop way in advance before you got to the stop sign or on the interstate or behind the car, which I know is very dangerous. So that's why I said I always prayed when I got in the car, because of how the condition of the car was. But the car served us, me and the children, for about, I think, another 8 months before it eventually gave out. And it's funny how God works, because even in that, he still sustained us. So when the car gave out, it was like 1 week after I got the brakes fixed on the car. So again, remember I told y'all that it was like some mechanical issues going on with the car, and one of those issues was the brakes. So income tax had eventually rolled back. I did not get much, but when I say I did not get much, I did not get as much back as I normally did in the previous years, but I did get something back. So I said, you know what? I'm going to take and I'm going to get these brakes fixed on the car. Now, immediately when I got the brakes fixed on the car, and that cost pretty much all of what I had got back from income taxes. Immediately when I got the brakes fixed on the car, maybe a week after that, the car broke down. The car broke down. Again, here I go back. Feel like I'm in a pattern, feel like I'm in a loop. I have a job, but not a car. Didn't have a way to get the car fixed again, because again, I took pretty much all I had to get the brakes fixed, and now the car gave out. So, and I knew it was a bridge car anyway, because it had some things going on. And to be honest with you, when my stepfather gave me the car was not in my name. He never had got it put in his name either. So whenever the guy that sold him the car gave him the title and everything. He never transferred for nothing in his name. So as I'm driving this car for the 8 months, I'm still driving under the previous owner's information. So I never had nothing really established as far as the registration and the insurance or none of that in my name. Matter of fact, and I'm not condoning this, I didn't even have insurance, and God kept me, because you know you don't supposed to be driving without insurance. But I didn't have insurance. I did not have registration. I didn't have nothing properly saying that I was the current owner of this car. But by the grace of God, he kept me day in and day out as I travel to and from work, as I travel to and from with my children. So fast forward, the car broke down. And then it broke down at the laundromat while I'm doing laundry. So after that, I had to get the car towed, and that took pretty much what I had left. So I thought I was going to be saving a few $100s that I did have left after I paid for the brakes and after I done what I had to do for my children. I thought I was going to save, but that was not in the plans of the Lord. So I had a broke down car, and I had to get it towed to where me and the kids were staying. And I didn't know what to do, because here I was again. And not only that, y'all, there was so much happening during that time. My daughter had just got out the hospital from having streptococcus meningitis. If you don't know, that's a blood infection. That's a infection of the brain. They gave her like a 50% chance of living, and she was 15 years old at the time. It was like so much warfare that I was in that I couldn't even think straight. And at this time that the car had broke down, it was right after she went into surgery, because she ended up going deaf in her right ear due to having meningitis. So it was like she was in surgery the day before that, and then the car had broke down. It was just so much warfare, so much things that was piling up on me that I felt pressure and I felt heaviness. But even in that, God seen that he took care of me and my children. He aided us, and he covered us, and he kept us. So I'll always be grateful for that. So anyways, I obviously didn't get the car repaired. The car sat in the parking lot for God knows how long, for months, matter of fact. So fast forward, during this time when I didn't have a car, God, he was doing the work within me. God was doing a serious work within me, because he taught me how to depend on him. I was so used to calling up on everybody and looking to everybody else for help and for strength, that God showed me in there. I'm going to teach you on how to stop being so reliant on everybody else and so dependent on your own strength, that I'm going to put you in a position to where you're going to need me, and I'm going to be the only source. And how that became, everybody started disappearing out my life. The few people that I did have, they could not help me the way that they could in the past. So I didn't have many people to call upon. Hey, can you take me here and there? Now, what I will say, that during this time, God did raise up a few friends, and I'm going to always be grateful for them. And if you watching this video, friends, I love y'all, and I thank y'all for y'all obedience, and I thank y'all for your heart towards God, for helping me and my children. And you know, I always say, I pray God blesses you and keeps you. But during this time, he was stripping me, and a lot of things I learned about myself during this time. And I could have honestly grew bitter, because I did not understand why all this stuff was happening to me with my children. You know, my daughter almost died, and I lost my car, no longer having a job. So I will say that when I lost the second car, I lost my job, because again, I didn't have a way to work. So I lost my job, and God had continued to sustain me and my children even during that time. But during that time, y'all, when I did not have a car, I had to walk. I had to walk me and my son to and from school, and it was very hot on those days. And then at first, I didn't understand why I felt like my life was really hard. At first, it was like a lot of complaining, a lot of grumbling, a lot of why me, why God, you allowed this to happen to me. But then over time, I started treating those walks as being intentional with my son, and getting to know him, and just fellowshipping with him, and then just taking that time after I got him to school, that when I walked back from dropping him off from school, that I used that time as a prayer walker to talk to God. So even in that, God began to strengthen him. He began to strengthen me. He began to minister to me. He began to grow me in that area of pride, stripping me of pride, to where I felt like people like me shouldn't go through this because I'm a good-hearted person and I didn't deserve that. But God showed up for me, and he did something in me that only I truly believe that a hard season like that can only do for me and my children. So even in that, God kept us. And I think for quite a while, I had to walk my son pretty much that whole school year backwards and forth. I did put in for transportation for him, but it never kicked in. It was always an obstacle that I was up against with that transportation. It was always a roadblock, but it never ended up falling through that specific school year. So instead of me becoming bitter, I just started using that opportunity to kind of get to know my son, to have mother and son talk with him, and then to also fellowship with God. And other places I learned how to catch the bus because I wasn't familiar with catching a bus. And actually, I honestly fell in love with catching a bus and seeing all the major inner parts of the city that we stay in, and seeing other people, you know, and looking at how other people, you know, caught the bus or how they used it as a means to get to where they had to get to, you know, and they wasn't, holding their head down. They wasn't shameful or anything like that. So I was very grateful. So I think as I began to learn the lesson and God continued to grow me and mature me and stop being so reliant on myself or on other people, and I began to just be strengthened continuously by the Lord, is when one day I looked up and I got a text message, and the text message said, I need you to update your application if you're still interested. And that application was almost 2 years old. And I put in that application back when my first car had originally broken down. So the application was for anybody that was like a single mother, a widow, or a wife of a military personnel that needed transportation. So honestly, I had forgot that I even put in an application for a car, for help, for assistance with a car, because it was almost 2 years. But that goes to show y'all that all because we forget, that does not mean God forgets. And it's just amazing that the seeds that you sow, that they do reap a harvest if you faint not. Even when you forget, even when you lose heart, God doesn't. So anyways, I was shocked that I end up getting a text message regarding that, because it's been so long and I forgot about it. So I was like, yeah, I'm still interested. So I went in and I obviously updated the application, because since I originally had put in the application, we had moved. So I had to update, little stuff like that to our current address and everything like that. So I resubmitted the application, and then this particular organization ended up contacted me back and said, hey, you were invited to a seminar that we're going to host, but it's not a guarantee that you're going to get a car. We just host it. So I was like, okay, cool, I'll still go to the seminar. I end up getting a friend of mine, by the grace of God and her kindness, she ended up taking me to the seminar. And y'all, I had such a blast. It was so amazing. It was so good that even when I left the seminar, even when I was there, the car and getting the car, that it didn't even matter anymore, because just the blessing and the richness of the Lord that took place in that seminar was so good that I felt fulfilled then. It was like, you know what? I don't need the car. The seminar was so good. And not only that, it was very humbling for me, because I was able to see and hear other women that had been through a lot of life circumstances as well. And sometimes when you go through life and you experience stuff, it feels like you're the only one that's going through it. And sometimes it's in hearing somebody else's testimony that you say, I'm not by myself, and somebody else do understand. Now, everybody in that room had a different experience and they had a different story, but every woman's story counted in the eyesight of God. God did not overlook no woman in that room. But the seminar was very good. I met some amazing women that day. We shared our stories. We cried together. We ate together. It was very nice. And I walked away fulfilled, to the point that it was like, you know what? Even if I don't get a car, I was fine. Because remember, the seminar was not about the car anyways. It was about just them ministering to women that had been through a lot, because a lot of women that was in that room had been through domestic violence, had been through so much in their life, and they were single mothers or they was widowed. They had been through something traumatic or something tragic in their life. And so the organization was about pouring back into them and reminding them that God sees us, right? So I had a blast. So maybe about a week later, they conducted an interview for us separately, to where they called us and they asked us specifically what would a car do for, you know, me and my children. So I answered it in its entirety with what I felt like a car would do for me and my kids. And I told them I believe that a car would help restore me and my kids' dignity. It would help us get around and ensure that we able to do things that we need to do, everything. And something else I was saying, but yeah, they conducted the interview, and that I didn't hear nothing for maybe after that interview. The interview came after the seminar, about a week after the seminar, and then after the interview I didn't hear nothing for maybe a month. So I was just inquiring, like, okay, I was not selected to get the card, but that was still okay for me, because again, the experience was nice enough for me, and I was just grateful that I even had the opportunity, because it was so many other women that was just as deserving of a card as I was. So a month had went by and I did not hear anything regarding the car. So then I end up getting a text message, and they was like, the organization that hosted the seminar, the organization that's responsible for the giving away of cars, end up text messaging me, and they said, hey, we would like for you to come back to speak to some of our donors, because it's through your words and through your experience that this is why they, you know, they choose to donate. So we had so I accepted, first of all, let me slow down. I accepted the invite back. So I did go back. I did say I'll go back. I was very excited. And I said, yes, I'll speak to, you know, the donors, the people that's going to possibly, potentially think about donating into this ministry of helping single mothers or widowed women, or women that's married to military personnel, to get a car. I don't mind, you know, anything to help the ministry out. I don't mind. So I end up, and that happened. Okay, so after the text message and the timing of when we supposed to go speak to the donors, it was like a weekend between, maybe a couple of days. So that gave me a couple of days of the question that I think we had to answer was, how did the seminar change our life? So they wanted us to tell the donors, the potential donors, how did the seminar change our life? And so I had a couple of days to kind of think about how the seminar changed my you know, me and my kids' life, you know. And so when I got there, fast forward to the day of the getting together of us speaking to the donors, it was me and I think 10 other women that was there. We had to dress up. That organization did require us to put on our Sunday's best. So I ended up putting on my favorite blue suit that I absolutely love. I put on that and I got there. And I was prepared to get in front of the donors and tell them what the seminar had done for me and how it had blessed my life. Y'all, I did not realize that I was walking into my own blessing. I did not realize that I was already selected to be a candidate to receive a free car. I did not know that. The women that was paired for us, the volunteers that was paired with us, we all, the 11 women, including me, it was only 11 women that was selected, and I was one of them. We each had a volunteer that stood beside us. And as we was waiting to speak to the donors, they did not give away like we was already selected, that we was winners of the cars, we was candidates of the car. They did not say nothing. They just made it seem like we was just coming there to speak. But little did I know that I was walking into my own blessing. So eventually we spoke to the donors, and we told the donors how the seminar would, you know, helped us, and it encouraged us in our life. And then we went back to the room, but then they called us out the room. And as we walked out the room, we was walking outside. Little bit known to me, I was walking into a parking lot when they finna get ready to bring the cars that we, you know, that they was giving away to us, out to us. And God is such an amazing God that I have so much discernment. But in this instance, he blocked it to where I wasn't even picking up on, okay, maybe I'm here because I got selected for a car. I was not even in tune with that. Like, my mind was not even going on there. I was just happy to be invited again to speak to the donors and helping them hopefully continue to donate into the ministry that had blessed my life. I was not even thinking that me and the other ladies that was there was candidates for the car. But Lord have mercy, we walked outside, and My volunteer, the lady that they had me paired with, she asked to hold my hand, and I agreed. And I was, you know, I thought we were just walking outside because they had the music set up and maybe to take pictures or maybe to eat or whatever. My mind was totally absolute in the idea that I had just, you know, I was selected as a candidate for a car. So they told us to line up, and we lined up, and I'm just out there talking. And as I'm talking, the first car had a bow on it, and it comes past me. I'm not even thinking. I'm just still talking. And honestly, it wasn't until I seen my car that I caught on, and I seen a red bow on it, that, oh my gosh, this is for me. God has blessed me with a car. And at that time, when I seen the second car that was white, the car that I have now, I didn't even realize it was my car. But it wasn't until I seen the second car that I realized that every lady there was a candidate and was selected to receive a free car. So I broke down crying. I asked the lady, was this real? And I kind of joked with her like, you didn't even tell me. I didn't even know that I walked into my own blessing. And I started praising God so much that they had to make me literally go over there to the car. They had to say, okay, come over to your car, come see your car, because everybody else was kind of walking to their car. But I started praising God because I know the seasons and how hard it was for me and my children. I know what it's like to walk and feel like you was forgotten and overlooked. I know how it feels like everybody is being blessed, but it seems like God has overlooked you. But even in that, God seen me. And that's what they put on my car. It had my name. It says Lachelle, and it said, God sees you. God sees you. And I want to encourage somebody today through my testimony that God sees you. He sees everything that you're going through. I don't know how long you've been in that situation. I don't know how dire your situation may seem, but I encourage you to continue to trust in the Lord. Continue to keep your faith and your confidence in him, because I did not even know that I was walking into my own blessing. I went almost 2 years with relying on other people, with trying to do it in my own strength. But even in that, God had developed me. He strengthened me. He grew me to stop relying on my own strength and to continue to trust him. And let y'all know this. It was 4,000 women that had applied. Every year it's 4,000 women that had applied, and only 11 was selected. And I was one out of that 11. Nobody cannot tell me that God does not specialize in the impossible. What I can't do, what you can't do, God can. God can. And I'm sharing this with you to encourage you to keep the faith that if God did it for me, that he would do it for you. That nothing is too hard. Nothing is too impossible for God. And you continue to keep the faith. And I will share with you a video and a picture of that day. That faithful day of God showing his kindness and his faithfulness. And the seminar was called the Restore You Seminar, because the women that was there had walked through so much. And they made sure in that seminar that we was reminded that God sees us even through life circumstances. And through this video, I want to remind you that God sees you and he cares for you. Continue to keep the faith. Continue to trust God, that if God done it for me, he'll do it for you too. There is nothing too impossible for God. I don't know what you may be trusting him for or how long you've been trusting him, but I will encourage you, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Keep going and keep trusting, because you looking at and you listening to somebody that God has been faithful to day in and day out. Even when I wasn't faithful, even when I wanted to give up, even when everybody left me or I had to walk away, God is still faithful. Now and forevermore, keep trusting him. I hope this message encouraged you and blesses you. I apologize for being long-winded, and I skipped so much of everything that we've been through. But as God continued to lead me to share with you as I go on this journey, I will release some of my testimony and my story as God allows and permits me to. But I pray this encourages somebody. I pray this uplifts somebody. And again, I will be adding a short video and a few pictures of that day where God restored me and my children. And I just cannot wait to see everything else that he has planned for me. And if you got a testimonial of God's faithfulness, of God's goodness, please share. I would love to hear from you. I stand in prayer with you. If you need somebody to pray with you, if you need somebody to stand in agreement with you, I will include my email address in the description box to where you can reach out to me and we can stand in agreement in prayer together. I love you. I pray this message blesses you and it keeps you. Until next time, please keep the faith. This is what abundance looks like. This is what it looks like when you serve God and you give your life to God and you just let him take and do what only he can do.
Hey, what'd your son say?